Okay, anyway, the Telegraph now, and it looks like the Irish authorities were worried about a migrant camp getting in the way of Paddy's Day festivities, so they drove them up into the mountains and dumped them there, Paul.
That's policing. Irish police clear migrants from campsite in Dublin. So around 200 asylum seekers were moved from their camp outside a government office to another tent site, which was up in the Dublin Mountains. The Dublin Mountains sounds beautiful. I didn't realise there were these big mountains.
It sounds cold.
It does sound cold.
And if I've just arrived from, I don't know, the Middle East or something, I might not want to go to a windswept Irish mountain in a tent.
No, but I would. I'd pay good money. So Ireland have become this kind of pin-up now, haven't they, for the immigration chaos. And, it doesn't matter where you're from. It's not Ireland's problem. It's a kind of a problem across Europe, and it's obviously a problem across the world. I've said this 1,000 times on this show in particular. It doesn't really matter where you're from or what colour your skin is or any of those things that you can't take any control over on the day you're born. People try and build communities, and they build it around an ethos. Now, when you successfully build a community and you keep adding external elements to that are unfettered, that are different and that are not in tune, you don't end up with a cohesive society or community.
Yeah.
And that's the problem we're finding all over the place at the moment. This is happening in Ireland quite a lot. People are speaking up about it. And Ireland are having to do it because they're a huge part of the EU, so they're having to accept whatever the EU tell them to. But that doesn't make us exempt from it. We've got a massive issue of our own. And the trouble is...
Well, in fact, we're almost in a worse position because, not being part of the EU, we can't sort of bargain with them and say, OK, we'll take these ones, but we're going to... the option is, I think, you give money and not accept migrants, and I don't know where they get put, somewhere else in the EU, I guess.
I think the problem we have, though, is that we no longer have identity like... If it's a traditional identity, if we talk about what it means to be British or Irish or French or whatever, it becomes a problem. And then when you chuck the word immigration in with that, it becomes an even bigger problem because you're seen as something derogatory.
Yeah. Well, there's traditionally been Irish people who are people of colour. Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy is a classic example. The Irish, hold them to their hearts. But I think we're seeing this unprecedented level of migration into Ireland that's creating all this social conflict, Adam.
Yeah, so when I was reading the story, one thing I thought was interesting was that saying that part of the reason why they moved them is because the original site had come under criticism for becoming sort of squalid and have a lot of rubbish strewn around and stench of urine, and they wanted to, more importantly, make way for a St. Patrick's Day parade, which I imagine would involve a lot of drinking and a lot of maybe rubbish being thrown around and maybe, hopefully, stench and urine. So, that's what I was imagining.
Sounds like they could have combined the two.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just get them all and celebrate together. Missed opportunity.
But it's interesting that Leo Varadkar, so he's the Irish leader, he said that St. Patrick, who's the patron saint of Ireland, St. Patrick was an undocumented male migrant. And St. Patrick was not an undocumented male migrant. St. Patrick was a slave who was taken from Britain by Irish slavers. And
to assume his gender so brazenly like that is something I take great issue with.
He's not having a great week, Leo Varadkar, so hopefully he's on the way out at the next election.